It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show.
Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 383. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
Hello.
Grace.
Hi.
Kodra.
Hope you're ready to live, die, and know.
Tam.
Hello.
And Thalen.
Hello.
So this week we're picking up where we left off with our 3-part Endwalker full spoiler show. And here's the things. So after, failing to save these people.
Because we find them, and we also find a group of cerulean miners who are holed up in a cave, who are a little more willing to interact with us because they're not Garlean nobility. They're were
just
they were the
collar
poor
workers.
Yeah, like a lot of them are like conquered people that were brought in because Garlean does that. Like they don't fully trust us, but they're at least willing to talk to us.
So while we're resolving that sequence, when we get back to camp, they have caught a Garlean soldier that was trying to steal food. And we talk to the Garlean soldier and find out where they're located and decide that we're going to go with Alphino and Alisaie to try and broker a deal to help them out because we've got plenty of food, like we can share.
This is one of a handful of places. Well, two thoughts. One, this is one of a handful of places where I'm like, you selected the wrong people. What are you doing? You have a lot of competent people with, authority and experience that you could send with us, but you send the kids?
Well, now, Alphino is the diplomat. Like, that's his thing. That's what he does. He bees diplomatic.
I mean, it is. He bees that whether or not we want him to be.
To be fair, by this point in the game, he's actually kind of good at it.
Yeah, he has grown a lot since the Crystal Braves.
It's fair, but still every other NPC you chat with is like, who is this child? Like there's even a comment straight up that's like, oh, you came here with 2 kids. What are you insulting us?
I also feel like them underestimating the Leviers was intentional.
That too.
Yeah.
Another thing we kind of wanted to happen.
The other thing is that the whole Garlean arc, especially to this point, it's another one of those. This is a complicated question that doesn't have easy answers, but it's going to get broached anyway. Because like we sort of skipped over it, but like you have the big, hey, remember all of your friends that you've met over the last like 3 expansions? They're here to help. And I don't know, maybe Sadhu is the wrong choice for this.
I mean, she has a specific set of skills, and we might need those.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I love that they bring this back because it's so much hey, can we let's bring back the annoying guy as continual comic relief, and the fact that the game is just relentless in mocking him, and I love it. I'm never sad about it.
I mean, let's be honest.
There's a bit of will there, won't they, with the Asm Step contingent, but it doesn't involve him.
No, and I love it.
Sadhu is absolutely here because what's her name starts with a C.
Serena.
And because they are a couple now.
Yep.
Like that is why Sadhu is here.
And I'm so here for it. Like I was like, what are they even doing here? Oh, they're here just so we can do some more character story. Yes.
So we can see that actually the 2 of them get along great. And poor little brother is just like over here, like really wishing one of the ladies would be into him. And it's just not going to happen.
I mean,
and somehow incapable of reading between the lines.
There's a couple of points where Sadhu's like, I'm gonna murder everyone. And Serena's like, no, you're not. And she's like, yes, miss. And I'm like,
Yep.
But yeah, so So we go to the headquarters of, I think it's the First Legion. Is that correct?
I believe so.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So we meet Quintus, and he immediately demands that we leave our camp and surrender all of our resources. But instead, we're offering to help solve some of the problems that they're having. And I don't remember the sequence, but somehow we end up needing to help them, but Alphino and Alice end up as hostages.
Yeah.
I mean, he's basically like he offers that and is like, "All right, now it's like you shouldn't have come here, but now that you did, you're our hostage."
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's the two of them because he looks at you and goes, "I know who you are,
It's-
and I'm not going to do this to you, but I know if I do this to them, you'll play nice."
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, if you try anything, I'll kill them.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, what
you dumb idiots! Why did what did you think was gonna happen?
I think he basically says that like he knows he can't do anything to us, but we will absolutely do what he says if he holds them hostage.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a terrible person.
He's also not wrong.
I mean, he's
I
not
mean,
wrong.
We will basically do whatever
hmm I mean,
because
he's so.
we
but
do that for the people we care about.
I mean, also, let's be totally clear. This is Final Fantasy XIV. It doesn't actually matter who the NPC is. They're going to ask us to do a thing, and we're probably going to be like, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fair.
Yeah. And so Quintus is like he is very clearly an old guard Garlean soldier. He has been doing this for a long time. He's pretty old, and he is very clearly pretty bought in to the myth of Garlemald, of like that no, Garlemald like ruling over the entire world would be best for everybody, and why won't you people see it?
The commentary is so unsubtle. The
Yeah.
comparison to
A lot of things.
a lot of things. Garlemald is some unsubtle commentary about a variety of countries.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like it's a commentary on imperialism as a concept.
Uh-huh.
A variety of countries, particularly some Western ones, but some not exclusively Western ones.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
The
Nationalism.
concept of some religions, nationalism. Like there's a lot of coverage here.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean,
But-
because don't forget that Japan itself, had a very imperialist history up until relatively recently, and does a lot to like grapple with that and think on that in their media. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
more so than America does, because they're
But-
at least willing to admit that they had this history.
I think the interesting thing with Quintus though is he is definitely a product of his environment, but he also doesn't necessarily seem evil.
Yeah, he doesn't come off as an evil man. He comes off as he believes in Garlean supremacy, and
Well, and he does evil things,
yes,
thinking that he is doing the right thing.
this is what will help. This was what will help the soldiers under my command. This is what will ultimately help the most people in the long term. Like,
But not the short term.
no,
Well, and again, like in the eyes of these people, we're invaders.
yeah, like that's
Like,
something, yeah,
we're-
that comes up over and over. Is like we've come into their country. Like, I mean, they're not wrong. We are invaders technically, but like we're not
Yeah,
here
it's-
to conquer them.
It's
Like,
yeah,
they
it's
don't-
kind of a mirror because it's like their take is
Why would
Garlemald.
you invade if not to conquer?
Mhm.
right. Garlemald,
That's what we do. Like we only go to countries we want to conquer.
yeah. So why would you do any different? In fact, because we tried to invade you, obviously you're doing the same thing. You're just
You're-
spreading. You're invading. I think he even makes a comment that's like, it doesn't matter if you're invading us to take over. You are still invading us with your ideas.
But
And that's like, and that's very clearly that's the big thing about Quintus is like he is bought into Garlemald. He has been this way his entire life. He is set in his ways. Like he's an old guy who's not like he's not going to change like his entire worldview. Like that's not something that he can do.
so we get contacted by Thancred shortly after leaving, and he tells us to play along and that he's watching the situation and that everybody back at Camp Broken Glass is aware of what's going on. And in doing this, like, we get to work more with this character Julius, which seems to be far less bought into the Garlean supremacy as Quintus is.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't really get that impression from him.
Yeah, I
He's-
was
Like
gonna say.
he's young, but he's definitely very bought in.
He's young. He's young enough that he might be able to consider other possibilities. Like you can. He still has that. But what if that's not right? But what if things are different than that? Like, and you see a little of that, like talking to him, that like he is able to like at least consider that.
We might really be able to help.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the one who brought us back to camp in the first place.
He's able to imagine that maybe things could be different. Quintus can't. Yeah, and Julius takes us to an old playground, and it's like it's playground equipment, but it's playground equipment that had power sources. Like there's carousel and like a fountain that used to have water and stuff. And it's there's this all this stagnant water in the fountain and everything, and you're looking for power sources like fuel. And I don't know, this was the moment that really got me, as it's a playground.
It was a moment that very humanized the Garlean people, and it also kind of reminded me of an almost Soviet era existence.
Yeah, that kind of brutalist architecture, and people are still even in this militarist society, people are being people. Kids still play.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about, I don't remember if he talks about visiting the specific playground or just one like it, but he talks about his childhood a little. And then you go wade in the water like a doofus looking for see if there's a hatch for a power source.
Yep.
And get water in your boots.
And while we're out doing this, we find out that our folks have snuck in and stolen back Alphino and Alisei, because all of the other legions other than the first are very happy to accept our terms of assistance, because they just kind of want to survive. And they radio back to the First Legion.
It's worth noting that the thing that's going on here is that this legion is hanging out waiting for reinforcements.
Yep.
Yeah, they are holding out until help can come, because obviously the other legions will be here.
Right. They have the firmest belief that help is coming, that the Garlean way will preserve. And the other legions are in worse shape almost than they are, and are more than happy to accept help because they know no help is coming. So essentially that's radioed ahead to the First Legion. And Quintus releases all of his troops from service, and we make a rush back trying to beat the inevitable. And being a member of a brutalist society, completely bought into the ideals of the Garlean Empire, he cannot exist in a world without Garlean supremacy, and takes his own life.
Yeah, this is a rough scene, and if suicide is something that triggers you, this is a scene that you should be warned about, because it's
it doesn't show it, but it all but shows it.
The blood splatter, they don't. But yeah, this is the final action of a man who realizes that the world that he dedicated his life to, the ideal that he dedicated his life to, no longer holds, and he can't change.
And while this is happening, a scream emanates from the main tower, and everyone that isn't wearing a talisman gets tempered.
Yeah, all the soldiers that we had rescued and were helping,
and at the same time we get bamfed away and are abducted by Fandaniel
into the dumbest sequence of this expansion.
Yep.
Dinner with Xenos.
So here's a callback. When Xenos first came back, he inhabited the corpse of a Garlean soldier.
Just a random dude.
Just a random dude. And we're now in the body of a random Garlean soldier. And Xenos and Fandaniel are trying to get us to eat dinner with them.
Yeah. Yeah, so it turns out like there was this weirdo in the Alamigo instance when you retake Alamigo at the end of that expansion who like had this he was involved with the whole soul ether transference and everything, and he had this cool attack that would knock your soul out of your body, and then you had to try and get back into it.
My word, this data.
Well, apparently that data was real useful, and Xenos and Fandaniel did get a hold of it.
So yeah, we get mind jacked, and Xenos has figured out how to do this all along. He can do it at will, and he decides it's going to be hilarious to hop into our body and murder all our friends, because then finally we'll want to fight him.
We will care about this subplot.
Maybe then Senpai will notice him.
Is this enough to get me to care about Xenos? Let's find out. No, nope, still don't care about Xenos.
Nope.
But yeah, so this leads to the worst sequence in the entire game.
Oh yeah.
You have to make your way across a battlefield with this character with not great abilities on a timer, trying to get back to camp before all your friends that you care about are murdered.
Yeah, and it's kind of done as a puzzle game almost, where you're having to like find some things to activate other things, and there's enemies in the way, and you can fight the enemies, but you're not healing between fighting enemies.
Very notably, combat is resource negative almost entirely.
So you're having to like decide, like try and avoid fights as much as possible, but sometimes you're going to have to fight, and it's
No, you don't ever have to fight. You just have to know where the invisible aggro radiuses are. You can slip between all of the invisible aggro radiuses. Thalen, don't you know all of the invisible aggro radiuses of all enemies?
I didn't.
Because of Ixal quests, I actually kind of do.
Yeah, like once I figured
But that was
out,
also dumb.
once I figured out what I was doing was trying to identify the invisible aggro radiuses, I was able to complete it, but I was so angry every second because I was like, I can do this, but this is the worst. Like, I am absolutely using information and using tactics that make no sense because like it doesn't really feel like I'm doing stealth. It feels like I'm cheating at an MMO, which I mean,
the game never does explain how aggro works.
Yeah,
but it's weird because this is a mechanic borrowed from FF11 that they never explain at all. Enemies do have different aggro criteria. Most enemies aggro by sight, so their aggro radius is significantly longer in front of them.
Yep. But some
enemies aggro by sound, particularly ones that are mechanical or have no eyes or various other things.
I think dogs.
They won't aggro. They won't aggro if you walk.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Some enemies aggro on nearby combat.
Yeah, I was about to say, I thought dogs had a different aggro thing because that was the thing I was noticing in this section.
So I was exceedingly lucky and found a regen thing and could fight somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have to do a lot of combat avoidance.
Yeah, because you could find like health packs to heal you back up some. So you could
you could do better than that. You could find a thing that gave you out of combat regen.
Oh, I didn't find that. I wish I had.
I'm sure it would have been great.
That would have probably made that encounter a lot better.
No, it's still awful.
But like,
no, it's still completely awful. Let's be clear. This section is bad.
Yeah,
it's the Elden Ring thing. Better does not mean good.
Like I could see what they were going for here. Like I get what they were going for, but it's so painful that it ends up not working.
I think I've had a discussion with Tam about loss of power mechanics in games because a lot of games do it, and this is one of the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I just keep thinking that the Japanese appetite for bullshit must be higher than the American appetite for bullshit.
There is
you can check the forums; it's probably not true.
There is this thing And I don't say this as a defense of this indefensible sequence. This entire sequence could have been about an hour shorter and consisted entirely of, I mean, it honestly really didn't need to exist in the first place.
This sequence could have given you tools. Like
But
it could have been a cutscene. It just could have been a cutscene.
There was one section, the bit at the very end where you are injured and crawling is the one section that encapsulated everything that this entire sequence needed to. And
Yeah,
that's
that
fair.
could have been the entire sequence.
Yes. Yeah, they could
Like-
could have done a cutscene up to that point, and then
They could even have done a hey, I mean, and it probably would have been more interesting if it had been you as this soldier fighting and losing to yourself and then crawling, and that
Yeah.
being the entire sequence.
yeah,
And people still would have hated it because literally anytime you take away anything from a player, they will have bad feelings and be mad about it. But sometimes you are using those bad feelings for an effect, which it would do in this case. But you did not need this like 40-minute misery sequence.
yeah. Because if it's short enough and not incredibly painful, the anger gets directed at the NPC. But in this
Yeah.
case, the anger was directed at the devs.
Well, the fail condition was so easy.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you lost this, it was so demoralizing.
yeah,
Yeah.
Especially if you
were-
lost it when you got towards the end.
Yeah. There were a number of sequences where they needed some cuts. They needed some
checkpoints.
Pointing.
some checkpointing in their solo duties.
They have that technology.
Which is the thing they
Didn't
have
use
now,
it
yeah.
here.
They just didn't use it. This is one of them. But there's a couple others where I was like, just it was a slog.
And then ending it with the active time thing was super frustrating because
Yes.
I was like down to my last minute and I was just like, oh my God, I'm so glad I'm done with this. And I start slamming on, my keyboard to get the active time thing. And I was in my goddamn chat box and I failed it.
Oh
Oh,
no.
I want to say that exact same thing happened to me because I know I made it to the active time and then took like a 3-hour break from the game.
Yeah.
And then
I was
came
like,
back and
okay,
got
I'm
it.
going to have a little break now.
Yeah, because I'd replied to some message during it.
I will actually say other than this moment, this sequence, I really liked the Garlean sections.
Yep.
I thought this was a really interesting zone.
Well, I mean, it gave us an interesting viewpoint into a culture that, like, we've heard a lot of stuff about, but not really gotten to see anything directly.
Oh,
Well, and honestly, just like the breadth, as Ash pointed out, like the breadth of things of topics that it broaches, and even just starting a conversation about some of these things without falling flat on its face
yeah.
is pretty impressive.
Yeah, like it goes into all of this and like addresses all of this and is very much there are no easy answers to any of this. Like it just like I felt like they did a really good job addressing
I thought
all of that.
I thought that it was a little bit overwrought at first when like legit like 40 people, 40 characters or whatever from previous parts of the game all show up at the same time to go into Garlemald with you. And I think every single one of them was used well,
Yeah.
including bafflingly, what's his name? The spoiled noble kid.
Amenelane.
Midland, yeah.
Like even he was used well, and I
Yeah.
didn't think he was used well in all of Heavensward.
Well, like, this was the segment that really drove home how much better their side quests are than they used to be. Like, because every side quest, for the most part, pushed the story forward.
hmm
And, like, maybe it was only fleshing out a little bit of an area, but, like, it directly tied into the main thread.
Yeah, like I mean I've always done all the side quests because I'm that guy, but Endwalker, like I really feel like you need to play through all the side quests because they add so much to just everything. Like there's just all this side stuff going on that like relates to the story and fleshes out characters and relationships and yeah. And sometimes
So-
you bring a Lalafella sandwich and it's really sad.
Oh, the sandwich, yeah.
One thing we didn't mention that had been established by this point, apparently all of the Garleans who weren't tempered, the reason they avoided being tempered was because they were huddled around their radios, and something about the radios protected them.
Yeah, the frequency that the radios were communicating on somehow was the resonance that the talisman was also spitting out.
Like something about that and like what the radios were made of, and I can't help but wonder if
Well, the radios had ceruleum in it.
yeah, but yeah, like it felt a little easy, but also like maybe it was meant as a metaphor, like because it was the people that were huddling around hoping for like some news from their emperor that like
they
were saved.
The
Like,
way
I don't know.
I took it, and I don't think that this was in the text, but it's how it felt, was, you know how you can't be tempered if you're tempered by something else?
That is kind of also how I took it.
Yeah,
These were the ones that
same.
believed so hard. you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
And it's
that
like
could be
the
it.
radio is just like the focal point. It's like it's the power source, like crystals.
They believed in actual Garlemald, so they weren't tempered by
They
the
believed that
horrifying
Varys would-
thing that we're about to see.
Yeah, they believed that Varys would actually save them.
Yeah.
So we get back to camp, just in the nick of time. They managed to get the tempered soldiers, that were in camp under control, and we mount an attack on the Tower of Babel.
Another
which
name
is
straight out of F4.
Another name straight out of FF4. It is the tower in the center of town, and so we have to fight our way through that dungeon, and it is a creepy dungeon.
And again, if you played FF4, you know some of what you're going to face here because Luge and what's his name, they're here. The giant Frankenstein robot and his creepy creator, who then turns into a super creepy robot.
And at the end is not a Final Fantasy 4 boss, but it's a Final Fantasy X boss.
Yeah.
The super creepy Anima, which is, I guess, what became of Varys' corpse.
It's so I'm pretty sure they cut up Varys' corpse, and like that arm we found, that was Varys' arm. They may have made clones and cut up the clones too to get enough pieces for all the towers, because that's certainly well within their capabilities. I don't know. But yeah.
It is a Mon.
But like this is a primal summoned like out of Varys. Like
it's a mess.
It's awful. And like Anima is terrifying. Anima has always been terrifying.
Just say they knew this thing was terrifying when they designed it in FF10.
Yeah. And
its backstory is not less tragic in FF10.
No. But yeah, so that's the final boss of the Tower of Babel. And we fight it and we beat it. And then Fandaniel shows up and is like, well, all right, you managed to stop us from pulling enough power to blow up the moon, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
Right.
And he fires the lasers.
Yeah, and we find out that like what he's been pooling all this energy for is to break the wards that are holding Zodiark prisoner on the moon.
Yep.
And since he didn't have enough energy to finish it, he's going to go up there himself because, surprise, they built a giant teleporter that'll take us to the moon.
Also, surprise, the moon has atmosphere and you can totally survive on it.
I mean, at least this part of it does.
Yeah.
Maybe not the whole moon.
I mean, it probably does.
It probably
does.
Let's another comment I will make is I don't understand at all Final Fantasy XIV's cosmology, like how stars, how cosmic entities exist, And that's mostly been fine because I didn't have to worry about it before, but now it felt like I was supposed to understand it, and I did not.
Oh, I figure they're all
The
in crystal spheres and phlogiston, whatever. I don't know.
the thing that where you may have found some of this out before is not terribly well explored because it's the Omega stuff.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, that's true.
That would make sense. I did not do any Omega stuff, and that definitely felt like something I should have done.
Yeah, that maybe ties into things that we're gonna talk about here. Yeah.
But what I've determined is everything is a star unless it's a planet, but we don't know what planets are.
Okay, so part of the problem here is that the Japanese for planet and the Japanese for star are the same word.
Okay, that's interesting, and
they're definitely only used as the word star in game.
Yeah.
But except there is a time when somebody refers to a planet and people make comment that they don't know what planets are.
Yeah. It's
I kind of do wonder what that is in Japanese. I wonder if they
I
just
do
do
too.
katakana.
Yeah, I really do. Like that I wonder if that's a thing that is very different depending on the localization.
Possibly, but it's super confusing because I'm like, and then there's the question of, okay, so all of these stars that people are born across, that's actually like different planets in space. Okay, I can get behind that. And the dragons are interstellar travelers.
Yes,
Sure,
they're aliens.
whatever.
Yep.
What's up with the reflections then? Because I was assuming a lot of this stuff was more magically inclined. Are the
Reflections are dimensions.
Are
Yeah.
they?
They're
Yep.
the shards. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're alternate dimensions. Like
Okay.
because like as much as the Asians made it seem like their reality was like that they didn't splinter all of reality. They splintered their
A
world.
pocket of reality? Okay, but does that mean that did they also fracture the rest of reality or no?
No,
Oh,
doesn't seem like it.
I do expect some of this to come up in the post-patch content.
Yeah, like
Mhm.
that's very likely.
Okay. Because it definitely is one of those things where I'm like, I feel like I have more questions than I have answers to by the end of all of this.
Like we visited one shard, and as far as I can recall, I don't remember there being any dragons there at all, or any
There are none whatsoever.
or any like hint that anybody knew what a dragon was. But also, the dragons didn't come to Thalen until after.
Oh, they didn't come until after the Sundering.
Right.
Correct.
They weren't. Yeah, they weren't present until well after the Sundering occurred.
Okay.
Yeah, it's it's definitely all very complicated.
It felt very complicated, and I was mostly fine with it being complicated until it felt like it was something I was expected to know, like to understand some of the story.
But anyway, Fandaniel and Xenos head off to the moon to break the last bond, and we chase them because that would be bad.
Mm-hmm. It would be super bad if Fandaniel achieved his aims.
I mean, he wants to destroy all of reality. That sucks. That would suck. It's where I keep my stuff.
Yup.
But, possessed Kryl has a brief last laugh, and instead of sending them directly to where the seal is, sends them to the other side of the moon, giving us some measure of time to do things.
Yeah, interestingly, Heidelin knows how to use this teleporter, and sends them off to the wrong place, and then is able to set it back to right near Zodiark, to exactly where we need to be, so that we can go meet an old friend.
Cough, cough.
So we meet the Watcher, who has been guarding Zodiark's prison, which is like just apparently on the face of the moon. Clearly telescopes don't exist, or we would have seen it already.
Yeah.
I mean, I get the feeling there wasn't actually a hole there until, they blasted it with a laser.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, at least part of this crater pre-existed, because there's that weird Allegan ship that crashed who knows how long ago.
I guess that's fair.
Yeah, because the Allegans apparently made it to the moon at some point.
Yeah, they had space flight. Who knew? I mean, it makes sense.
I mean, they're Allegans. If a terrible thing occurs...
I'm really surprised. Wait, if the Allegans made it to the moon and the Asians were controlling the Allegans, I'm really surprised that the Asians were not as successful at getting the whole Zodiark thing going before now.
They
Well,
didn't
the
want to
ship-
release him yet.
Yeah.
That was part of the whole thing, and why Fandaniel is acting.
They wanted to cause all of the shards to
Right.
rejoin.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah, 'cause-
then they could have sacrificed all of us to get their people back out of Zodiark.
Got it.
Right.
Got it.
Right. Yeah, they wanted to get their friends back.
Right. Now I'm sorry. I'm clear on what's going on now.
Yeah, Fandaniel's thing is totally counter to what the Asians wanted.
I mean,
Oh.
they both did want the destruction of all of us.
Yeah. It's just Fandaniel has no attachment to the pre-sundering world, so he's just willing to blow everything up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we make it to the moon, and there's this dude in a tower who looks a lot like the shades of Asians that we interacted with in Ammosart. Like tall, cloaked, featureless.
Sounds like an adult in a Peanuts cartoon.
Yeah, wah, wah, wah. And he sends us out to basically try and repair the broken bonds. Like there's all these other shades of the Asians that were sacrificed to form Zodiark wandering around, like, and we have to like get rid of them, like shuffle them off one way or another and fix the bonds and hopefully keep Zodiark imprisoned. And Bell wrote, "You meet a creepy glowing dog," by which I think he means you meet an awesome glowing dog.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh my goodness.
The
Bell.
best boy glowing dog.
Bell.
you got to understand, I don't really like dogs in the first place.
Oh,
So
Bell.
I agree. It was a little weird. It was
mean,
a
he's-
little suspect.
it should have been a
he's-
cat.
I mean, he's
I
a
mean-
long
Yeah.
dog, but long dogs are good dogs too.
That
I mean,
dog was
it's like the
awesome.
dog version of shag carpeting.
Except the cat wouldn't have helped you.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, yeah, you got me on that one.
Cat would have pushed us off the edge.
But yeah, this like there's this dog that, and it gets mentioned that the dog usually the dog's been around, and the dog usually only lets people he already knows ride him, but he lets you ride him. Interesting that.
Yep.
I'm just good with dogs.
At this point, I figured it was because the dog recognized us as Azam, and that's why he was letting us ride them.
Uh-huh.
But so I was caught off guard by later events.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my assumption too, is like, okay, he's realizes our connection to Thalen, or that we are the reincarnation of Azem, or what have you. That's in the right ballpark.
Well, and sometime around this point, we get attacked by a bunch of shades, and we find out that the Watcher is Hythlodaeus.
Our buddy from the DMV.
Yep.
Really?
Quite? No, he's not the
I-
Watcher. He's one of the
No.
shades we have to dismiss.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
I thought
Okay.
you saw him as
Yeah.
a shade.
Yeah, he's
The
at least
Watcher's new.
there.
Yeah, Hitler is there, but he's not the Watcher.
But yeah, you get to chat with him again.
Today's is
For
like,
the first
hey,
time, because he
it's
doesn't
like your old
recognize you
friend.
at all, because you just talked to a construct of him previously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Emmett Selk's memory of him.
And he thinks it's hilarious that Emmett Selk, or hilarious / sad that Emmett Selk would become that obsessed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's also like, yeah, I can kind of see it.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't really surprise him.
It's basically, yeah, he's basically like, yeah, I guess that all tracks. You should do this thing. But then
But
just,
hey, Xeno shows up and breaks the stupid thing.
just as you think maybe you're going to get it all fixed and hold off the end until level 90, nope, Zodiark's free.
Let's be clear. This is at level 7 or 83.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was not expecting this to happen quite so soon.
Yep.
Like we all assumed this was going to be at least the penultimate fight, like the
That's kind of what I was
level 87
expecting, yeah.
trial, because it's a Final Fantasy game, so there's always got to be the big bad behind the big bad, because that's how it works. But no, it's level 83, and it's time for the first trial, and we're fighting Zodiark.
Yeah, because, surprise, Fandaniel betrays Xenos and absorbs all of Zodiark into himself.
Mm-hmm.
The thing
And
that
this is
Xenos
the-
wanted to do.
And this is the point where this expansion got my attention. Because I think we had chatted about this expansion prior, and I was not that excited about going and fighting Xenos and Fandaniel and Zodiark. And so getting this out of the way at level 83, I'm like, aha.
Yeah, like suddenly, like all the big bads that they set up going into this, like, well, we're yeah, okay, we're done with that. I mean, Xenos is still out there, but he's not our
We don't
he's
really
not our
care about
problem
him.
right now. We don't
Yeah.
care.
I will say one of the things that annoyed me about this sequence was, and my joke at the time was, this trial could have been a cutscene because it really didn't matter what we did in it, because ultimately it was the goal of Fandaniel to lose that fight. Like, we beat him and he achieved his goals because we beat him.
To be fair, he probably would have, gone back down to the planet and done all sorts of awful stuff if we didn't beat him.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure they explicitly say that at some point.
Yeah, like either he was going to wreck up the place, or we were going to defeat him, and in thus doing so, destroy Zodiark and usher in what we're about to get to.
I mean, yes, there's definitely a heads I win, tails you lose situation.
Yeah, I mean,
He's
but-
anatosed us.
yes, but he also, like, that would have been, I would have been all right. Actually, I think I would have been more all right if he had, like, done that with, like, a death, like, as he's dying, he's like, haha, you fool, like, by killing me, I've achieved my ends. But, like, he actually goes and offs himself. Like, he also stabs himself right through and is like, because, like, I have won now. I don't know. It rubbed me the wrong way.
I don't know. I enjoyed beating up Fandaniel.
Yeah. So after we take out Zodiark, we meet all of the other inhabitants of the moon.
But
Well,
first,
I mean,
first Xenos he's angry that he didn't get to have this power. So obviously he's got to go find some other power. So he wanders off to go find another Shinryu to absorb or what have you.
And this is the point where I was like just exhausted with the game, because I was like, oh, I've beaten Fandaniel, but now I'm gonna have to fight Xenos as the final boss of this game. And Tam did a very smart thing and lied to me and told me that wasn't gonna be what happened.
I specifically said that he was not going to be the final trial.
Entirely.
You are not going
Accurate.
to have to fight him as the final trial of the game. It was a
It's-
completely honest, if totally misleading statement.
I mean, I would argue that by the time you fight him, we are post-story. Like, the climax has already occurred, and this is denouement.
Yeah,
Also,
we'll,
at some point,
we'll get to that.
there. We'll get there.
also at some point here, aren't we like taunted by a female voice? Something
Yes.
that was kind of like, oh,
It's
Hmm.
just a female voice that says "finally,"
yes, that's it.
and like my initial thought was, "Oh my God, was that Heidelin?"
Same.
Because it had a very malevolent tone.
Yes.
But yeah, no, this is when I started. This is when I got I was already enjoying the expansion. This is when I got real excited about things, because okay, we're out in the ether now. I don't know what's happening next. I could not have guessed. I mean, what was going to happen immediately next? Yeah, sure. That I kind of had an idea, but we're going to get into stuff that okay.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
Things take a turn.
I will say I enjoyed immediately getting introduced to the Loporrits, which is
Yes.
the people who Heidelin has appointed to manage the escape plan for humanity.
Because it
They're
turns out
so
the moon's
cute.
not just a moon; it's a spaceship.
It's a spaceship.
Turns out this planet may not have had any actual moons at one point.
That's no moon.
And there's these cute little bunny people, the Loporrits, that have been maintaining it. And if you have the naming way, little follow minion, you have one of them, because that's what
Yep.
he is.
So gosh darn cute.
They
Yes.
are
They're-
adorable.
This is where I depart from everyone else, because I almost stopped playing during this sequence.
Oh, I won't say that I thought my initial reaction to the Loporrits were,
Damn, you
these are
hate
so
joy.
cute. But this sequence was a bit of a slog.
Oh God, it was
It
such a
was
slog.
long.
It
It
was a
was,
bit
but-
much.
This
But
is-
they're
Well,
cute.
and the thing is that silly, cute. The the silly, cute, not, trying their best
Well,
trope exhausts me.
it was also constantly like this was one of those moments where I was like, I feel like I'm playing a Phoenix Wright game where I knew the answer like a minute into the story, and I have to go through an hour-long sequence like before I'm able to say, aha. Actually, before somebody else says, aha, the answer is actually this, which is exactly what happens here. Because it's like,
I mean, yeah.
oh, these are the people who have been working with the Sharlians. I
Yes.
can see this immediately.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
And you could see what was also happening with Urianger.
Mhm.
But like the process of getting there for me was entertaining, and this was a case where it's like, oh yeah, I see exactly where this is going, and it maybe took a little longer than it needed to get there, but mostly it was enjoyable.
Yeah, and honestly, I was perfectly happy when we got to the point when they were about to make the big reveal, and I'm pretty sure it was Ishtola was like,
Yeah.
"So it's the Sharlayans, right?"
Yes,
that you're
Ishtola
working with,
was
right.
was
And I was like, "Yeah, see, exactly, yeah."
nobody should ever let Sharlians tell anyone how food should work.
God,
No.
Carrots, so many
Yeah,
carrots.
I mean, there's a whole sequence of quests where basically, like, Charlene shouldn't tell people how anything should exist.
Basically, the short version is the Sharlians. So okay, so the Loporrits wake up from hibernation early because the failsafe triggered, because Zodiark has been destroyed. So now they need to get the moon in preparation to evacuate the entire planet, because that's what it's for. And so you end up like working with them, and it turns out like they've got some friends on the planet, it's the Sharlians, that they've been that have been giving them information about what they need to do to prepare and all this. And they show you the book they've got, and it's a start, and they've misinterpreted parts, and all the houses are 3 times too big because they built
Yep.
them for Asian size.
Yeah, they're really confused why you're so short.
Yeah, they're like, are
Yeah.
you children?
Not this again.
And let me be clear, they're tiny. They're teeny tiny. So, but yeah, I honestly, I kind of wonder if like at some point in like 7 or in this version 7 or 8, we're eventually going to get moon housing once the Loporrits finally get the new housing built. But I don't know. Maybe because maybe we'll get to help them create a housing district on the moon.
Yeah, I totally expect this is going to be another
Oh yeah, they're going to be
thing
beast
we
tribes.
watch
Well,
built up over time.
they're not beast tribes anymore.
Yeah,
but
they're one of the tribes. Yeah.
But it's clearly going to be the Matanga, the Loporrits, and one more that we're going to meet in a bit.
Yep.
But I'm guessing this is going to be either crafting or gathering, possibly both.
Yeah. And I really hope they do it this time where crafting and gathering are back to just one, so you can do either or.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never did get the quick run done in Shadowbringers because I didn't have a gathering class up.
I only have gathering class up. So yeah, we go back to Charlian, and through a whole sequence of events, they come clean.
I mean, basically, we confront the foreman, like, we know all of it. Just like, and also they're like, okay, well, the final days are here. Like, we're gonna have to tell everybody anyway.
Yeah,
We
and
kind of have to explain to people why we want them to all go to the moon.
so they're building an ark. They let us know that.
Sadly, it's not the lunar whale.
And as this is all playing out, we get an urgent distress call from Thavnair, and the final days that we just found out were about to happen, like literally because Zodiark was killed, are now happening. Like we have no time.
Yeah, like
It is happening.
Yeah, and oh god, the body horror.
Yeah, so Thavnair is being invaded by these things that they refer to as blasphemies. And there's a whole sequence as we're trying to figure out what causes the blasphemies, only to find out that people get turned into them because they are feeling dread or terror or despair, basically negative emotions.
Yep, they lose hope and they start to like get this weird like black aura around them, and then they transform into something out of Junji Ito's mind. giant caterpillars with too many teeth.
We got to see a hint of these things during the end of Shadowbringers in the
Yes.
Ammosart instance.
Yep.
Yep, it's a lot of those same things.
So instead of a boss, they're just everywhere. They're everywhere.
So it's very similar to the Sin Eaters in the first, except worse, because you don't even have to get like attacked and physically injured by one of them. You just have to fall victim to despair because everybody around you is turning into these things.
So there's a whole sequence of events as we're trying to help fight back the blasphemies. And one of them involves our good friend Matsuya.
Matsuya, yeah.
Yeah. As he's trying to find two of his good friends. Because, like, you kind of learn that he's a bit of an outsider. And these are people that had taken pity on him in the past and helped him out and helped him selfish. And, you know, he's concerned because he can't find them. So we go to help him find them, only to find out they're dead, but their baby is fine. And just as we find the baby, blasphemies attack. So we try and hold off the blasphemies while he runs the baby back to village. And this is just like a rough sequence.
It's like the baby's crying and he's terrified, and then you start to see, then the aura starts forming around the baby.
Yes, and he's trying to calm the baby down.
And then it starts forming around him.
Well, it starts forming around him when he gets cut off with more blasphemies. And from the sky, Stinian saves the day with Vitra.
Yeah, just as you're sitting here like, oh my god, are they really going to do this?
Yeah. This was such a stressful scene.
Like a bolt from the heavens, here's a Stinian.
It's a Stinian. Yay! A Stinian is Wynn's most improved character. It was a tight race between him and Urianger, honestly.
Was it really, though?
Not really.
I mean, I still don't
I guess Urianger gets his moment later.
Urianger, like, he gets a couple of moments, and
They can't make me like him.
Yeah, so in an earlier sequence that I forgot to mention, the satrap was destroyed by blasphemies.
That was what I was trying to remember. If that was happened before after.
Yeah, that happened before this.
Okay.
After the instance before this.
Yeah.
Because that was the moment for me where I was like, hey, here's the Grahatia I remember.
Yeah. Where he steps up. Yeah.
Where he like steps up and I'm like, okay, good. This is the person who I remember you being.
Like,
where have you been?
Rises up and is like, basically takes charge and tries to get things under control. Because the satrap gets like picked up and just like bitten in half by one of these things in full view of everybody.
And then that starts a chain reaction where other people start to turn.
And like, Grahatia is in his element as the inspiring leader. It's what he does. And I was like, finally, yes, this is him being good at what he does.
He is still a complete fanboy for you.
Yes. And that's but he can be a complete fanboy without being like a bumbler.
Yeah.
Because he has competent moments leading up to this, like End of Tower of Zod, but yes, that's definitely a thing.
Yeah. So Vitra is able to calm the child, at which point I think he realizes that he needs to reveal himself to his nation.
Yeah, right. Thavner needs its leader. And he's obviously scared to do this. Like, he doesn't know how this is going to go. Because he's been lying to his people all these years. And like, he's out of the best
He also
intentions.
has the news from what is that Heavensward Zone?
Ishgard.
He knows what happened in Ishgard.
Yeah. He's really worried how this is going to go. Like, is this just going to make things worse?
A lot of dragons got stabbed in Ishgard as they tried to make things better.
Yeah, but he reveals himself, and it goes pretty well.
Yeah. And like, there's kind of a double whammy that happens here. Him revealing himself calms the nation, but also at the same time, Sharlayans show up because there are very few people they are actually aligned with, but one of them is Thavnair because they're both like isolationist governments. And they reveal the plan and how they have a way to get people to safety and off the planet.
We're going to take them to the Ark, to the moon, and fly the moon off into space to some new planet and abandon this one. And I don't recall if we have asked certain questions yet at this point or not. But it does get established that, all the shards, like the first, they're linked to this planet. If this planet goes, they all go too.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
means
so
all
that-
our friends on the first go. Reen goes. Thancred's obviously not cool with that.
So what's going to happen in short order is Nadana tells us that she believes the final days and the transformation into blasphemies is when Akasha rises up and takes control. And so like our Elpis flower turned black and disintegrated during this sequence.
Yeah, like the despair overpowered it.
So in talking, Graha has another Graha moment and suggests that, well, you could talk to Elibdibus because basically the Crystal Tower is a giant white Oricide at this point, and
he's in it.
He's in it, and he's trapped there until he slowly dissipates.
Just what I've always wanted to do.
So
Go listen to Elidibus.
So we should just go back to the first and ask him what triggered the final days. Because, we don't know for sure what they did to combat it or what triggered it. So, just ask him about the final days.
Yeah. Well, and if you think about it, Elidibus wanted to reform the world unsundered. He didn't want this. So it would make sense that he would want to help us because, that, destroying everything, that's what they created Zodiark to prevent. He might be willing to tell us something. And so we go back to the first.
Yeah, honestly, in terms of his deal, not so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we catch up with our friends there with Reen and the guard Lina, and don't really tell them that hey, the world's possibly going to end and you guys would all go too, but we're trying.
That's a real bummer.
We're just kind of there's stuff going on. We're working on it.
We eventually tell Reen because she figures it out.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe not full details, but there's trouble and we're doing what we can.
So we go to the tower. We have our discussion with Elidibus, and
who, it's worth noting, is much less annoying this time around.
Yeah, he's
look. I've lost. I'm stuck in here. Could you please kill me? This is the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll help. Absolutely. Whatever you want to know, just let me go.
If you'll let me just not exist anymore.
So we bring up that Hydaelyn said that the answer is the Elpis flower. And he mentions, well, Elpis isn't just a flower, it's a place. It was our chief research facility. And that Fandaniel, aka Hermes, was a researcher there. So maybe we should just go talk to Hermes.
And that Hermes was the one who first detected the final days.
This is the point at which I lost the last shred of patience I had with Hydaelyn.
Yeah.
Just the absolute last little bit.
I kind of agree. Because yes, she could have, told us this.
And had ample opportunity.
Yeah.
Like a week ago.
Yeah.
When she was speaking to us in plain language.
Yes.
For the first time ever.
Tam, we had to earn the knowledge, Tam.
Yeah,
no. I will stab her to death.
I mean, my excuse for this is she was terrified of creating a paradox.
I do not believe for a second that she is the type of person to be terrified of making a paradox.
This did not feel like that type of time travel story.
I just because we're going to Elpis.
This is not that kind of time travel story.
Yeah, so Elidibus uses
because we know that time travel can erase one timeline and replace it with a different one because that's what we did. We replaced the
The
timeline
bad future.
that old Grahatia came from with a better one by stopping, biological warfare from happening. So, I mean, it's possible that she's like, okay, these are the things that I know that this person knew, and that's what I'm going to tell them and nothing more.
Yeah, so Elidibus uses the last of his essence to use the summoning magic, but to send us to Elpis.
Like, and he
In
warns
the
us,
past.
he warns us we're probably, it's unlikely we'll be able to affect anything there. We'll at least be able to like look around and maybe figure something out. And we get there and we're like, we're there in this room and there's Asians around us and they're much bigger than us. And we're like we're like discorporate. Like they don't even notice us.
We're
Yeah,
insubstantial nothings.
We're a
Mostly.
ghost. So, clearly this is like, going to be a short instance where we wander around and like look at some things and can't interact directly with anything and find something out and then go back. No.
I wish it was a short instance.
What? No.
But this is like the best
This
part.
is the best part.
Yes.
Then 2 guys teleport in and start talking to each other. And then one of them notices us and is like, hey, do you see that thing over there? Doesn't it kind of like doesn't its aura look similar to our buddy?
Yup.
Maybe you should like give it some more ether so it can be like fully realized and then we can figure out what's going on with it. And so Hithlodius convinces Emmett Selk to pour a bunch of ether into us.
Goads Emmett Selk into giving us some of his precious ether.
This whole section is worth it to me just to watch Hythlodaeus be the trumpet kid
It's so great.
in Emmett Selk's ear for ages.
Yeah.
Like that is a dysfunctional relationship.
Yeah.
It
'Cause
explains
how do you-
everything about their relationship in just this short sequence right here.
It's so wonderful. Because how do you have Emmett Selk like with that you're interacting with him like this entire time and still have him be recognizably Emmett Selk with the same basic personality of being like really cynical and not wanting to put up with your crap and have that not get exhausting? The answer is you have Hythlodaeus take the piss at every single possible moment. And just
it's so good. It's
It's
so
so
good.
perfect.
wonderful.
They're so adorable. It's just delightful to watch them every single time they interact.
I mean, like that is basically the Odd Couple. Like it's
Yeah.
it's everything that was good about the Odd Couple.
I also appreciate that this is not a sequence that tries to redeem Emmett Selk.
No.
Because he does not deserve it. And this sequence doesn't even really try. He's kind of a dick the whole time.
He's still insufferable.
Like
Mhm.
But it shows you more about who he was and like gives you a better idea of who he used to be and how that could have turned into who he was when we met him. I also very much love that all of the things that Hythlodaeus like goads Emmett Selk into doing are obviously things that Emmett Selk really kind of wants to do anyway. Like he kind of wants to do these things, but
Like
kind of chew up his
Hythlodaeus
own
is his
ass
conscience.
to be willing to like put himself out there and do it. And Hythlodaeus is like, no, you should help that flying thing and give it ether and teach it to fly because you're really good at flying. Like, go help it. And he's like, okay, fine, I guess I'll do it. Blah, blah, blah. And it's clearly
Hythlodaeus
like,
is Jiminy
yeah,
Cricket.
But yeah, so now we're in Elpis, which is the place where they tested all of their concepts for creatures. Which means this is where we get to see the precursors of all the horrible monsters that we've been fighting all these years.
And understand sort of why they created them in the first place.
Yeah. Or like,
Sometimes.
why do all the fish in this world fly? What the hell is up with that? Well,
Because it was a fad.
apparently it was a fad.
Somebody was really into sharks.
Yeah, why are there so many shark things? This one dude really loved sharks.
once again, we return to they are making some statements.
That one felt more like a commentary on game design.
Oh
frankly.
yes. Absolutely.
Yes. I mean, it's a commentary on a handful of things. But yes, it is a bit self-indulgent as far as the commentary on game design goes.
So one of the things, and want to check and make sure, like, see if everybody else like got this as well. So there's one quest you can do here where this guy sees you and is like, "Hey, your ether is like your ether is like different than I expected. It looks like you would be protected from like having your ether affected by things. Would you be willing to test that for me?" And he basically sends you out to like poke some things that are going to try to temper you.
Yeah.
And he makes the statement that this is something that like these things wouldn't have any effect on like one of them on a real person. Like, it might like nudge him just a little bit, but it wouldn't have any major effect. But something like you, they would expect it to like completely shift your ether. And but that so I'm pretty sure that back in Shadowbringers, when Emmett Selk told us that Zodiark tempered him, he was lying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, this isn't, and not just like this was his excuse to himself. No, he knew he couldn't be tempered. He was lying to us. He was lying to us to put the idea into our heads that Heidelin might be messing with us, and to try and like make himself more sympathetic.
To be fair, Hyland is messing with us.
Well, yes, but not in the way that he implied.
Fair.
I do not understand, for the record, why Heidelin is messing with us.
All Asians are bastards.
I mean,
We have to preserve the
like,
time loop.
like we can go into this probably a little bit later, but like Heidelin is trying to test us. Like that's really what Heidelin is doing.
What happens if
Heidelin
we
is
fail?
way too up in her bullshit.
Hermes wins.
Yeah.
Nope.
Like Heidelin is way too wrapped up in her own bullshit.
Like, yeah, it's basically like verifying that this world that we came from, that we claim is deserving of continuing its existence, really is. Like,
Yep.
can stand up to this, can,
Heidelin,
yeah.
I mean,
Oh
as
my goodness.
Because
Heidelin
she's
has
still an
the
Asian.
same ego problem that Emmett Selk does.
Yeah,
Well,
like,
of course
Yeah,
she
but
does.
she's
Like,
just
okay,
nicer about it.
Yeah,
Yes.
Well, the thing is,
she
it's like
puts it more nicely, but deep down, she is not convinced that these lesser people could possibly be better than the Asians. And so she puts us through a ringer of bullshit tests.
well, I mean,
Multiple
so like
times.
the thing that
Yeah.
the thing that and like this probably would have got brought up later is when we meet Vanat, aka the Asian that was Heidelin.
who will become Heidelin, yeah.
Like, so there's this thing in culture that once you've fulfilled your life's mission, you're supposed to willingly self-terminate and go back to the ether.
Yeah, like to
Like
the point
that's
that
that's
there's,
just proper.
yeah, there's like a couple of places, like not just Venat, where like someone is talking about how like this other person, like, once they finished this, then they can go, but then they can go back to the ether, and really like it's like that. Okay,
Yeah, so like when Vanat stepped down from the seat of Azim, aka who we are, the adventurer, she was supposed to self-terminate. Like, that's how it's supposed to work. But no, like she refused and has continued about her life's effort.
basically wandering around and helping people, and and we also find out like it's made very clear that Azim's whole thing, like we already knew his whole thing was kind of like wandering the world, but his whole thing is wandering the world and helping people and doing really stupid things like jumping in volcanoes to do this. We are absolutely the reincarnation of Azim.
But like the role of Azim was also kind of one to bring new knowledge into the culture, because the Asians were kind of a academic and cloistered group anyway. So we were kind of like, the role of Azim is kind of to go out and explore new things, fix problems.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of weird. I found a bunch of these side conversations in this zone really interesting, because it put a lot of effort into painting this incredibly alien picture and like portraying the Asian. I mean, I hate calling them Asians, but I don't have a different word for them because they're not technically Asians, but whatever.
They're
Precursors.
humans.
Ancients.
Yeah, and we can't really call them Ammoratians because we know that's not the entirety of their culture now.
Yeah,
I think it's
but whatever.
usually ancients.
Yeah,
The ancients.
ancients. Yeah,
Yeah, but these ancients look human-ish, but they have vast powers of creation and perception. They are functionally immortal, and as a result, they just they think like their way of thinking is completely alien
Mhm.
and is really uncanny valley because they look so human.
Yeah, like they seem like just normal people, but then they're doing experiments like, we just create this creature out of nothingness and we're going to test it, and if
Then
it's
we're
not
gonna
good
destroy
enough,
it.
we're going to, uncreate it and try again.
Yeah, like it hits all of the like cosmic horror beats of, sci-fi aliens.
Hmm.
And I found that to be a really interesting like parallel that they were doing there.
Yeah, because they don't even view it as death. It's just uncreation. Like
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like
it is
like a
hitting the undo
vacation.
button in,
It's like
in Photoshop.
it's just it's a vacation from existence because
Like-
all of your ether is going to come back in another body later. That's
Yeah.
how it works.
Yep. Like, I mean, like one of the very first things they do is they're like, "Oh, you're going to need proper clothes. Go kill a couple of butterflies and bring us their like ether so that we can like reform it into clothes for you. Not even kill them, just catch them, I think. Like bring us some butterflies and we'll turn them into clothes
So
with creation magic."
this sequence really began what felt like a long sequence of, and this was persistent in a lesser way throughout other parts of this expansion, but this one is where it started really feeling rough. Of every single quest is go to point, talk to NPC, go to point, talk to NPC, and like that is the way that you are interacting with the game. Like the way you interact with these beautiful zones is to hop on your mount and, for the most part, avoid all of the monsters wandering around in the world, because like what are the monsters wandering around in the world for even? Like
Hugs.
they're kind of just obstacles. They're not something I really want to fight.
I will point out the game has struggled with that question since Heaven's Ward.
Yeah, like this isn't a new problem.
It's not a new problem. It felt this is the moment where I was like, it feels like there were some pacing issues here. And that's kind of like why I made the comment, I wish this was a short instance, because it kind of felt like a slog to me.
I feel like it was giving us a lot of information, and that's why it was as long as it was. I mean, it was information I was hungry for, so it felt like less of a slog to me because I was learning new things along the way that I was curious about. But yeah, I mean, like it is a lot of go fetch quests. It is a lot of go talk to this researcher, help them with this thing.
I think maybe the fact that I broke up the story quest with the side quests may have, to some degree, helped with that, since a lot of those involve, fighting things.
Yeah, I absolutely did all of the side quests during the sequence, and it was a lot of combat.
I hit max level in this zone. Without really even trying, I was egregiously over leveled.
That's wild. I hit max level like one quest before the quest that would have required it.
You were mainlining the story.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I had done the thing for me was I had done a handful of side quests, not that many. But when I first hopped in, because I was really interested in what Summoner was doing, I did a bunch of leveling. I did probably a leveling dungeon every time I logged in for like 4 days when I first started playing on the Summoner to try out all new Summoner mechanics. And as a result, I was severely overleveled.
Yeah, I was I think 90 before I stepped foot into Elpis.
Yeah, people were talking
like
about,
I was doing fates too, because like I like fates and I just happened across them in the world.
Yeah, this was the point where this was sort of the point where I abandoned doing any side quests and just beelined the main quest all the way to the end. And I kind of agree that it really exposed I realized that this is just how FF14 is, but boy is it click, 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 run.
Yup.
Click, 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 run.
This is broken up a bit, especially in this zone, by story instances of varying quality. This zone, I'd rather liked the duel.
It's true.
Although,
that duel takes a while to get to.
It does. And she almost freaking killed me, which as a tank is impressive, actually.
She absolutely killed me.
So we're going to cut this episode here. off. Please join us next week for the final conclusion and wrap up of everything. Thanks. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
See ya.